when we are talking about dunking, we're not talking about jumping. Jumping and dunking are two different things. They are again related, but it's not the same. Somebody can jump higher and not be able to dunk, and somebody can have lower vertical jump and they will be able to dunk. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Basketball, Body, and Mind. Today's topic is very interesting for every single player, not only player, for parents also, and for coaches very much. The topic is everything about the vertical jump. Talking a little bit about technique, about ways to improve, when to focus, how to improve, and all of these nuances, if you will. Because I often get a question, usually it is from parent. I often get that question that how do you improve vertical jump, or how do you improve vertical jump fast? What jumps should my son, usually son, should do to improve that? He's 12 years old and he cannot touch the net, for example, right? Or how many jumps should I do? So to set the expectations for this podcast, it's not about quickly improving vertical jump. Usually it can be improved very quick if you are lacking technique elements. Maybe you don't do the big arm swing and you're just starting to do the arm swing and you improve 10% of your vertical jump. So that would be usually quick fixes. Or sometimes you can be promised, hey, you will improve 4 inches by 4 weeks. Yes, maybe other people did that, but it's not necessarily will apply to you. And also, I want to say that I will be talking more from the safe, repeatable progress, that I don't want you to jump super high but not be able to play basketball. So this is definitely for the players who want to improve, or also who want to understand better about how to improve, the reasons behind why sometimes it's better not to work on the vertical jump, and it might improve. Also, for that reason, it's important for parents and coaches to understand these reasons. So let's start with what the vertical jump actually depends on. So there are, I believe, 4 key areas that we need to touch. So the first one is strength, then coordination and timing of the jump. Of course, we need to touch a little bit about the tendons, and lastly about the intent and technique of the jump. So I believe these 4 things are key elements for improving vertical jump. Let's start with the first one, which is strength. When we are talking about the strength, it's not only the max strength that is important. Of course, max strength is important, and it is very highly correlated to the relative strength. Relative strength is when we divide your max strength by your body weight. So, for example, if somebody can do, let's say I can do 160 kilograms of trapbar deadlift, and my weight is 80, so my relative strength would be 2, right? Number 2. If somebody can do, let's say, trapbar deadlift of 180, but their weight is 100. So then when we divide that, we go 1.8, and mine is 2. So for max strength, the other person is stronger. But if we talk about relative strength, I will be stronger. And it seems that relative strength matters more than max strength. However, max strength highly correlate to the relative strength. If your force production is low, you might be having the low vertical jump ceilings. Of course, it depends on genetics, it depends on the tendons, but if you do not have strong foundation for strength, most likely you will not be jumping that high. So that's why you will hear on social media very often that you need to improve strength first and build your vertical jump on top of that. So this is very, very important, because if you don't have a strong engine, how can your car be fast? I mean, maybe you will be fast for a little bit, but then something will break down because the muscles or like your engine is not strong enough to sustain the load from the jump. I heard this analogy also a long time ago from one of the coaches, and he said that imagine that you are shooting a cannon from that inflatable boat. Like maybe you will be able to shoot once or maybe like 10 times, but then eventually that boat will break. So we want to build that boat stronger before we shoot the cannon. So, and cannon in this case is jump. And another thing that is very important is the speed at which you are jumping. So, what does it mean? If you can jump 1 meter and it takes you 2 seconds to make that jump, it doesn't matter how high you will be jumping, everyone will be like, you will be always behind. Let's say it this way. So your opponent is shooting and you definitely can block that shot. But by the time the person is landing, or maybe even landed after a shot, you just are taking off. So it's not only the max height that you can jump, it's also at which speed you can develop that kind of strength to jump high. So that is very, very important. But it also comes to the relative strength, not only, but if your max strength is super high, but it takes you, again, like 2 seconds to develop that max strength, maybe only small portion of that you will be able to transfer to the jump, because jump of 2 legs, it can be like 600, 800 milliseconds. So you will be maybe developing just 50% of your max strength for that jump. So in that case, it's obvious you don't need to work on your max strength. You need to work on something explosive, on jumping, or maybe some weights with doing them fast. So more on that part rather than max strength. The second thing that is important to talk is coordination and timing. Dunking, we need to to understand that when we are talking about dunking, we're not talking about jumping. Jumping and dunking are two different things. They are, again, related, but it's not the same. Somebody can jump higher and not be able to dunk, and somebody can have lower vertical jump and they will be able to dunk. Because dunking is a skill. In order to understand this better, so imagine this: your right and left hands probably are similar in strength. If you are right-handed, so maybe your right hand is a little bit stronger, but not significantly much. But if I gave you a basketball and I would ask you to throw that basketball with your right hand as far as you can, we measure the distance, and then I give you again a basketball and I say throw that with your left hand, you will see that the difference between your right and left hands will be so big. I don't know, 50, 60% difference, big one. But the difference will be much bigger compared to the your, let's say, bench press. Because in this case, throwing a ball is a skill. Of course, the stronger you are, in theory, the more distance you will be able to throw that ball, but it depends only on the strength. It also depends on the skill. How many times have you thrown the basketball with your right hand? So you develop efficiency, you develop that coordination and timing, which muscles and when to contract in order to throw a basketball far. But with the left hand, maybe you have done 10, 20, 30, 50 times in your life, and that is it. So that's why it does not only depend on the strength, as we talked, but it also depends on the coordination and timing. So dunking is a skill. Jumping is less of a skill and more of a quality, like a strength and power quality that you can that you can do. So that's why it is important that if we want to improve this vertical jump, it will be more of the weight room work. But if we want to improve dunking, we will need to work on a dunking as a skill also. But in these situations, I will be talking more about how to improve vertical jump rather than dunking. But making this distinction, I believe, is important for you to understand that you cannot just expect to improve your dunking by working only in the weight room. You need to practice also a skill. And now for this, we need to develop a timing of a hip, knee, ankle muscles and when and which needs to fire in order to dunk. So in order to jump, we need to learn that too, that all muscles, they need to fire at certain times in order for us to maximize our jump height. And if you are going through growth spurts, we have talked about that last week, 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about growing and all topics related to that. So you can look for episode in the show notes. I will be putting it there. But if you are growing, your coordination and timing will be so much off that no matter how much you will be working on the timing, it will be difficult. So to kind of develop that vertical jump. So for that reason, when you are going through growth spurts, don't care about your vertical jump. If you go to the weight room, just practice different movements with different equipment. Just do the variation of exercises, and that will help you with the timing and coordination. Like when you will be playing basketball, you will be working on different type of jumps, so that will also help you with the vertical jump. But just do not do this mistake that you would be working on your vertical jump during your growth spurts. Third thing is tendons. And tendons are more like a spring, not the engine. And what I mean by that when muscle contracts, okay, so need to understand, okay, muscle, tendon, and bone. So there is a muscle that later goes into tendon, and then later the tendon attaches to the bone. So when muscle is contracting, shortening, it stretches the tendon. And when muscle relaxes, the tendon release the energy that we could use for running, that we could use for jumping, for any that type of movement. So for some people, if tendons are a little bit longer, if tendons are a little bit thicker, they will be able to store more energy in the tendons, and they will need to produce less effort into that jump. Because the tendon is thicker and longer, they will be jumping much higher than somebody else who tries really hard and try to jump as high as they can, but it just cannot kind of take off. But that is genetics. We cannot do anything about that. But we need to understand that tendons are not something that it's easy to develop. It takes much longer than muscles, and it's hard to change them. One distinction that I have seen and I have read other coaches to talk about if you are more flexible person, it will take longer for you to stretch that tendon because the muscle will need to contract more. So most likely, if you are flexible, most likely you will be jumping more of two legs or higher of two legs. And if you are a little bit more tight person, so you are producing less motion, but you are, let's say, stretching the tendons a little bit earlier, so most likely you will be jumping better off one leg. However, now we need to remember that dunking is a skill. If you are, let's say, very flexible, but you are able to jump off one leg higher, maybe the reason is why you are jumping higher is because you have trained that type of jump more times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are better able to jump higher off one leg, even if you trained both, like two legs and one leg, the same. Maybe I cannot answer this correctly, exactly, but in theory, we are more likely to say what I said, that if you're very flexible, you will be better off two legs, and if you are more tight, you will be better jumping off one leg. Or if you're more muscular person, you will be kind of more of a two-leg jumper, and if you're like a little bit leaner, more elastic type of person, you will be better off one leg. But remember, dunking is a skill. Whatever you have practiced more, most likely you will be doing better off. And last, number 4 is the intent and technique. I said that in technique, you can see the fastest results. If your technique is off, maybe you don't do the big arm swing, maybe then just by changing that in 1-2 days, you can improve your vertical jump by 10%. And intent is how hard do you try to jump high? If you give 50% of your effort or 60% of your effort into the jump, how likely you will be improving your 100% effort jump? Not that much. So when you want to improve your vertical jump, you need to train with the intent. Intent can be something external that you try to reach as high as you can. So maybe you want to grab the rim, maybe you want to touch the rim with your fingers, with certain part of your fingers, maybe you want to touch with the palm or maybe with the wrist. So when we have a external goal to reach, usually we tend to do better than just jumping. Because if we are just jumping and it's not being measured, or if we are sprinting and it's not being measured, this is the same way, we tend to give less and don't give our max effort. So that's why it would be important for you to measure it somehow. And that's why, since we want to improve your max, we want to do just few reps, 3 to 5 reps. Maybe you could do singles of 8, meaning you just do one jump and then you rest for like 10 seconds, then you do the second jump and so on. And for you to better understand this, imagine that your maximum bench press is 100 kilograms. This is your max. How many reps do you think you could do that? Obvious, 1, right? So if your max jump is 100 centimeters, how many can you do? Why do we expect that we will do 10 times and we will improve that 100 centimeters? So this is for you to understand. So now when we talked about the vertical jump, let's talk common mistakes that players could do, and those mistakes could hold you back. So first of all, as we just talked previously, it is too much of the jumping. And why too much jumping and not enough strength can be an issue? Because basketball is a contact sport. Jumping, whether we are shooting, rebounding, dunking, is just one skill of many that we need to execute on basketball court. So we need to shoot. And I say we, but I don't play basketball. You need to shoot You need to dribble. You need to change direction. You need to be good at passing, seeing the court. There are so many different things that you need to have in you or in your baggage that only working on the vertical jump will not often leave you better basketball player. That's why strength would be as a protection and also as a developer for all of those skills to change direction, to be able to set the stronger screens, to bump players, having your muscles not tired when somebody is hitting you, like fouling you, so you will not be so sore after the games. And this does not equal to working on the vertical jump. If you feel that you are slow on the court, that you're like slow in the defense also, that you're not able to accelerate well on the first step or decelerate well, maybe then working on that vertical jump, because vertical jump and first step, they highly correlate. It's not the same. We'll talk a little bit later about that. They're not the same, but maybe then you need to work on that. But in most of the cases, it's not, we're not strong enough. That is the issue. And why then do we focus so much on the vertical jump? Why do we see so many programs on internet being sold for improve your vertical jump, 4 weeks, 4 inches, and whatever? Because that is our ego. If we see a great dunk, that is ego. We want to do that. Don't you want to be like Nikola Jokic? Wouldn't be that good enough for you? Okay, could I come up with another solution? Yes, Doncic. Do you need to dunk? Do you need to be crazy? Do you need to have a crazy vertical jump in order for you to be a great basketball player? As I said, there are many different skills that you need to work and develop. So that's why too much of jumping, not enough of strength, could be an issue. Next thing would be, next mistake or issue that I see is copying social media programs. And usually it is for adults and not for someone who is growing. If somebody has already matured and they are working on the vertical jump, and maybe they are doing French contrast, that I will be talking again later when we will be talking how to improve vertical jump, and you at age 14 or 15, you're already doing the French contrast, Olympic lifts, heavy, combining with extra plyometric sessions, you might be maximizing by the age of 17, you'll be done. Maybe your knees will be sore, you will have lots of knee pain, back pain, and maybe you will have a crazy vertical jump, but you will not be able to play basketball. So what do you prefer, jumping 1 meter or playing basketball? Of course, we don't need to choose one of the two. We can have both, maybe not jumping so high, but still being able to play basketball. And one more time, I want to repeat this, that if you are growing, usually that's age, okay, if you're a girl, that would be 12 to 14. If you're a boy, maybe that's 13 to 15 or maybe 13 to 16. Don't focus too much on vertical jump. I would put even like so little attention to vertical jump, improving vertical jump, that it's almost zero. All my effort would go to developing broader skills. All of those, strength, agility, coordination, all of that. Okay. And lastly, that last mistake that I see is the one that we are chasing numbers, either with volume, doing lots of jumps, or we are chasing numbers of strength. As you know from the beginning, it's not the max strength that is important, it's the relative strength that is more important. And instead of working on your max vertical jump, work on the landings first. And try to land softly on two legs that you barely can have a sound. Then maybe you just land on one leg and then on the other. You compare between left and right. Do you land similarly between those two sides? Your risk of injury will go significantly down. Plus, you adding the strength, you'll be good. You will be good. As the goal is not to be the maximum, the person who jumps highest in the on the court, but the goal is to be the best basketball player. Yes. So now, with all of these, I still want to give advices for age groups and what to do, how to do, and how to improve that vertical jump. With what exercises we need to do. So we will talk about three groups. One group will be 12 to 14 years old. Another one will be 15 or like 16 to 18. And then 19, which is pros, adults, when you are of the senior, when you are of the junior level and you're going to the seniors. So with the first group, that you are young, 12 to 14 years old, just as we talked, landing. Work on different kind of landings. Two legs, split stance, jump and land on one, jump and land on another one. Snap down. You have a plate over the head. You are quickly snapping down and landing on, let's say, two legs or one leg with a plate in your hands. Okay? Stepping off the box, 30, 40 centimeters. That could be up to, what would be, 20 inches, 18 definitely, maybe even 28 inches. And you're landing on two legs. If you are super good, be careful. But maybe you will be landing on one leg. You will be working on that skill, deceleration. Then maybe you will be mastering body weight exercises, push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, single leg deadlift with lighter weights. You don't have to chase the numbers yet. Work on that movement variety, okay, and coordination. Lots of skipping exercises. Forward skip, backwards, lateral skips, then double skips, A, B skips. Take the basketball, dribble while you're skipping, turn the basketball around, while you're skipping, and then kind of lift your hand up like you would be shooting a layup. Okay? Do anything. Agility ladders, don't work on the agility ladders that they are like just going through the exercises like very fast. Challenge yourself. Come up with difficult exercises that would be hard for you to do. That will be helping you for coordination. Those drills that you are just quickly snapping like your fire feet exercises, they barely help you with anything. Like barely. I don't want to say they are useless, but they barely help you with anything. So that's why you have to challenge yourself. And again, if you cannot come up with the exercise, do just regular exercise, but grab a tennis ball or grab a basketball and do some kind of moves while your legs are doing that coordination drill on agility ladders. Dribble or turn it around your waist or around your head or throw the basketball in the air, do the drill, catch it, continue, and so on. Challenge yourself. Okay, so that would be for early ages, so 12 to 14. What you need to avoid is high intensity plyometric sessions. If you will do few jumps, that's fine. You definitely will not hurt. I believe it will even help you. But if you do lots of jumps, and lots, we can count more than 20 of max intensity. So not talking about jumping rope, but that you do max effort jump on the box or from the box, or any kind of variation of those jumps, but in max intensity, that would be high session. So do less than that, maybe even 9 jumps, 3 sets of 3, max effort, perfect. Okay, heavy loading, don't chase numbers yet. Avoid doing that. The goal for you is variation. You need to focus more on the different movement patterns, because when you are growing, your body doesn't need that much load, like strength-wise. It needs a little bit, but it needs more of the movement movement variations in the exercises that you do. So progress with the control, with the stability, doing some stretching and mobility exercises. Don't be afraid of weights. If you thought that I'm saying like don't lift weights, no, you need to lift. But don't focus on reaching or hitting your max numbers in that, especially in the exercises that would be loading your, let's say, spine heavy. If you max out with chin-ups, if you max out with bench press, I think it will be fine. But if you max out in the squats or in the deadlifts, that wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Let's go to the number 2, which is teenagers or young adults, let's say, if you don't want to be called a teenager. So age 15 to 18. Priority for you right now, since you will have already developed some experience in the weight room, priority for you will be strength. And if we want to work on the vertical jump, usually more of the squat pattern exercises will yield better results for you. More of the hip thrust, hip dominant exercises will yield better first step or lateral step results. Okay? I mean, just for you to understand a little bit better. However, you're doing lots of squats on the basketball court because you are jumping, you are sprinting, lots of quad work. Usually, hamstrings are not working hard enough. That's why we need to balance them. And that's why you need to do both. You don't want to train only for the vertical jump, but if you want to train only for the vertical jump, you will be focusing more on the squat pattern exercises. And full motion versus specific motion, for this group, I would still prioritize full motion exercises because you can go to specific motion, and specific motion in this case would be, so when you record your vertical jump, even if it's 2 legs, or if you go off 1, or if you go off 2 with a like approach, you want to see what ranges of motion you are using in that type of jump. So that type of motion would be called specific for your jump. So if the exercise is in similar ranges of motion, that exercise will help you more. I can say more to develop that type of jump. So we can take this for you to better understand. We take 2-legged jump without approach, just standing, vertical jump. You will be squatting lower, you will be leaning forward a little bit more, and then you will be jumping. So for that exercise, bigger range of motion, like a squat, a little bit deeper, will be helping you more to improve that type of jump. Now, if we are running and jumping off 1, and you see that you barely bend your, little bit bend your knee, you're a little bit bend your hips. So then that specific motion, if you're doing let's say a squat, short range of motion, quarter squats, that will be helping you more for that type of jump. Of course, it's only the range of motion that I'm talking now, but we also need to talk about how long does it take you to produce that force. So in vertical jump, of 2 legs, maybe take you 700 milliseconds to jump. And then in that one taking off 1 leg, maybe it will take you, 300 milliseconds. So if exercise takes you 1 second to perform, more likely, no matter what range of motion, you will be working more maybe on that contraction type, on that speed. I hope you are not messed up. If I messed you up here, please let me know in the comments. I would be happy to explain this one more time to anyone that did not understand. But think about range of motion and at speed, which that strength is developed. So now what you could do You could do some of the plyometric sessions. Besides working on strength, as I talked about, like probably it's more squat and specific motion, but for that group would be everything, and a hip thrust and full motion, everything. But if we are talking now about jumps, what kind of jumps you need to do is like there are different types of jumps, like seated jumps or box jumps, regular jumps, one leg jumps, or assisted jumps with the band pulling you up. So again, it really depends on the range of motion and at speed. Those two key variables will be for you determining which exercise to choose. So if we are talking about standing two-leg jump, tell me whether seated jumps or, let's say, quickly jumps, like rebound jumps, one after another, will be helping to improve that two-leg jump more. Yes, you guessed it right. More of the seated jumps will be helping it more because the range of motion will be more similar. Because when you do one jump after another, you will not get so low in those between the jumps. I mean, okay, if I would tell you jump high but not quickly, maybe you would get low. You see, it context really, really like is super important in this case. But if you want to simplify, you will need to do a little bit longer type of jumps. Then, if we want to improve one leg jump, so we need to focus little motion and fast type of exercises. So single leg jumps would sound, actually they might be good because I'm jumping off one leg and in my dunking or if my vertical jump, and also I am training that in the weight room, like single leg jump, right? But actually, no, that will not be good motion and that will not be good speed because when you are running and jumping off one leg, as I said, it will take you maybe 300 milliseconds to after that last step to take off, and you will be barely bent at the hips and at the knee. But when you are, look at your video or look at your jump in the weight room, when you will be jumping off one leg in the weight room, just standing one leg vertical jump, you will see how long it will take you to jump up. You will see how much you are bending in the knee and your hip, right? So it doesn't help you to improve your vertical jump of one leg in like of one leg running approach. But what change would help if you grab a band or you have a handles to hold on. And then when you are jumping, you don't get so low and you are able to jump faster. I hope you understood this one. I hope it was clear, but this is important for you to understand. If you are training one leg, it doesn't mean that you are working on that single leg jump. Maybe you're working on a two leg jump. You're just training one leg. And that's another topic later. Someday we can talk about single leg strength and all of that. So, if you want to integrate that into your training, in your training schedule, weekly schedule, the best would be to do some power or like to do some jumps before basketball session. If you already had your basketball session and you already like pretty tired and then you hit the weight room afterwards and you work on vertical jump, not sure if that will help you to improve your vertical jump. It might if the training session was not that hard, you might be fine. But if the training session was hard and you still try to push that through, not good things will happen. For that case, focus on strength. If you're lifting just after the game, you did enough of jumping on the basketball court, so just focus on strength. And if you're playing 3 games a week, no extra jumping. No need. You'll be good. If you still want do like 5 jumps a week, max intensity on a box. I mean, I don't think anything would happen if you did 10, but I don't think you will see significant change if you did 5 or if you did 10. That's why I believe 5 would be enough in a week, not in a training session, in a week. Just max effort, super max. Okay? But if you're playing 3 games, no need to do any of jumping. And what to avoid? Avoid joint pain. If you have knee pain, forget vertical jump. The more you will jump, the more you will stress that knee, the more you will sit on the bench. If you're sitting on the bench, but you have crazy vertical, nobody needs you. And our last group, 19 plus, our seniors, as they would like to be, our pro team. So what you can focus now, since you have gathered 4 years, 5 years of experience in the weight room, you can now work on that French contrast method. So what does that mean? It can be, sometimes it's 3, but I think original French contrast is 4 exercises in a row, but it's very taxing. So you need to keep those repetitions super low. And if you're not experienced, as I said, 5 years plus of like structured weight room regime, don't do this. But French contrast would be that you do heavy strength exercise. Or maybe it will be better if I would just give you an example, right? So you do drawbar deadlift, 3 reps. After that, you do vertical jump, just body weight vertical jump. After that, you do weighted, lightweight, but still weighted vertical jumps. And then you finish off with assisted vertical jumps with a band pulling you up. So those 4 exercises would be as a French contrast. Often you could see someone skipping one part. So they would do, let's say, heavy step up. Then they would do single leg jump on the box. And they would do assisted one leg vertical jump, like the band pulling them up again. Okay, so that would be another example of kind of shorter French contrast method that often I could see in like around. So you definitely could do that if you would like to work a little bit extra on the vertical jump through the different systems, like through the strength, through the speed strength, and through the speed spectrums. So don't be afraid of maxing out. And just for you to throw some numbers, I would like you drawbar deadlift 2 times your body weight would be expected. Great result would be 2.5, but it always depends. I don't want to just to throw these numbers, but just for you to understand that there are certain limits that we want to see, and you don't have to always chase max strength. And just for you also to understand, like, if you are doing body weight single leg squats and you think that's difficult, yes, it is, but I would like you to be at half of your body weight. So I am 80 kilograms, 180 pounds. I would like to do single leg squat, full motion with 40 kilos on me, like a vest and maybe a sandbag of 20 kilos, both. So that would be 45 vest and 45 sandbag, and do 8 repetitions for that. So that would be strong and full motion, standing just on the box, single leg. Okay, so don't be afraid of maxing out. Usually smarter decision will be maxing out with more single leg exercises if you already have gathered like 5 years of experience. But it all, as I said, depends on the context. In this case, you will be addressing a little bit of individual weaknesses. So you might not even work on the vertical jump because you will be working on the individual things that coach asks you to do, because the programming, the assessment, everything gets with more details, because basketball at that level will be at bigger speed. There will be more intense. You will be asked to do more, and maybe you'll be standing on the sideline for 15 minutes while the pros are doing the drills, and then coach says, okay, jump in. You're already called, but you have to guard like the best player in the team. You'll be sore, tired, beat up, extra sessions, but that's why you might not be working on the vertical jump. But if you are, you could do basically everything. And last part before we close this vertical jump chapter is about training it in season and off season. It's important because in off season we don't have so much basketball, so we can have much bigger load of jumping. And in season it's the opposite. Games are your plyometric sessions, your jumping sessions. If you are playing 3 games a week, no jumping sessions for you. No need. You will overfill your cup, and then pain will start, either knees or back, ankles, Achilles, anything. So reduce that unnecessary extra jump. Okay, so that would be my advice for you. And as I said, maybe you would want to do like 3 jumps in a training session, like max effort jumping on the box, maybe, but it's not needed. We don't need to do that. And you would like in that, like if you're playing that much, you would like to maintain your strength. And in order to maintain, it doesn't mean that you just maintain it, but if you will maintain, you will be losing it. So that's why you need to push hard. I mean, smart also, but you need to train for that relative and max strength, because only this is how you will be able to maintain it. Because if you're playing 3 games, you will be pretty tired. So your muscle system and nervous system will not be functioning at the same level as you were fresh. So if you just kind of maintain how you feel that day, you'll be doing like 60% of your max. So that's why we need to push. However, we need to be smart, because if you're playing that much, you just get maybe tired after the weight room. But if you're used to, you'll be fine. So I would just say this, that focus on 2 strength sessions a week. Keep low volume, like 2-3 sets max, and no more than 8 repetitions. Keep it 5 to 8. If you're doing single leg exercise, no more than 5. 3 to 5 could be a thing to work on. So if you did not take anything, I hope you really did take something from this episode. But if you did not take, or if you do not remember anything from this episode, you take just these things. I could not summarize it in 3, it will be 5, but strength will raise your ceilings of jumping ability. If you seem to be stuck with your jumping ability, most likely not the jumping, but the strength is an issue. It's not always the case, but often. Jumping, then second one, jumping and dunking are not the same. Dunking is much more like a skill that you need to train. Jumping, you most likely will be able to train really well in the weight room, but you need to add a skill training of dunking on the court if you want to improve your dunking. Third, if you are growing fast, stay with it. Don't stress out about your vertical jump. Keep working. No focus on heavy plyometric sessions. Just work on variety. That would be my advice. Number 4, if you have sore knees, stop working on vertical jump. Goal is to play basketball, not to jump 1 meter. I mean, it would be nice, but if you can jump that much, but you're sitting on the bench, that doesn't matter. And last, if you want to improve your vertical jump, 99% of the time, lower repetition jumps will be better. You need to jump less, but with better quality in order to improve your vertical jump. So If you want, you can look at the show notes to the one pager that I have created with all the simple rules, what to do, what not to do. So feel free to use that. And if you enjoyed this episode, share with a friend or subscribe to this podcast. That is the best way to support us. But for now, keep training basketball, body, and mind.